bit different than my normal science content. As I've talked about before on the channel, I love my D&D campaigns, and I'm in a lot of TTRPG campaigns. Perks of being a college student, I have a lot of free time, most of the time, sometimes. And I just have so many stories from those campaigns, from those adventures that I've always really wanted to tell. And I've wanted to share those stories for a while now, and I finally have the opportunity to do so. I just love talking about my games, and I want to talk about my games, and so you don't have to listen, but I'm going to talk about my games. So, recently, a few of my friends and I were really interested in playing Pathfinder 2nd Edition, which, for those of you who don't know, is a game a lot like D&D, but with a little bit more complexity in its rule system to make it a little bit more challenging for beginners, so to speak. We've played it for a few sessions now, where we just completed session 6 this past Saturday, and I fucking love this game. I don't know how to describe how much I love it. It's confusing, but I love it. Like, it's so good. And once you get to know D&D, there's the rules are pretty straightforward. Like, once you master the rules, you master the rules. And there's a limit within the raw about how unique your characters can be. And I've found that Pathfinder is a lot more flexible in terms of character creation and character stories, and allowing to have narratively based mechanical choices. Like, you can have very cool mechanical things that are built into the system that make for unique narrative stories, So, to recap, I don't hate D&D. I don't. I love D&D. It's a fun game. And it seeks out what it wants to accomplish in a very relatively straightforward way. And, as somebody who's been playing D&D for years, Pathfinder has allowed me to be a bit more creative. With the mechanics that are just, built into the game. It provides that customizability that, D&D can't provide. As a preface, apologies if I'm looking off everywhere. I have a kind of a weird setup. I'm trying for the first time to film on my phone because my webcam has been having issues. So I'm doing a webcam on my phone and then audio through my computer. And so I have my notes on my laptop, and so I'm gonna be looking everywhere. This is how I would normally talk to people anyway. So you get the full Hannah experience. So as I create this series, I'll explain my character build, potentially my friends' character builds, and any Pathfinder mechanics that relate to the overall story. I'll go into depth about those once I actually get caught up with where we are in the story. So at least for now, I won't be doing any in-depth rule explanations of Pathfinder. If you really want those, I totally recommend a channel called No Nat Ones or No Nat. He's super cool. I think he's kind of funny. Offers much better insights into the game than I could. He's been playing it for a lot longer than I have. And that's where I went to learn about Pathfinder when I was prepping my character for this campaign. So go check him out if you want rules explanations. So a little background on this campaign specifically. This is a homebrew Kingmaker campaign. What that means, so Kingmaker was a module that Paizo, the creators of Pathfinder, made a while ago, where the party is essentially rulers of a nation, right? So in between all of your adventuring, you also have to deal with politics and industry and international relations, and you're essentially playing a civilization game in the middle of your Pathfinder campaign. And the actual model takes place in the pre-existing world of Paizo's creation. But my DM made a homebrew setting for this, for us to play in, and we're just utilizing the country rules and the mechanics and stuff for our own ends. Welcome to Earth, or at least the memory of a place that you know as Earth. The year is 823 PE, post-empowering. The earth is flooded with water, fantastical species walk among humans, the remaining bastions of civilizations are floating islands in the sky. And while gods are real, not a single one can communicate or interact with the world directly. How did that happen? 823 years ago, or as humans would better know it, the year 2148, humanity walked the earth alone, but without the magic or even direct influence from the gods that the other worlds benefited from. Instead, they were left to guide themselves, and in this challenge, they found purpose. The scientific advancements were wondrous. Robots with sentience walked amongst them. Each planet of the solar system and the moon had colonies on them, and the humans were working on their greatest project yet, creating a device that was faster than the speed of light. But the gods of the other worlds were enraged by this and offered Canis, the god of humanity, an ultimatum. Either destroy the humans and take action. Whoopsie, got the wrong thing. Either he would take action to force humanity onto another path where the other gods would destroy humanity. Canis loved the humans that he created and could not bear to see them destroyed, so he reluctantly took action to put them on a different path and began the empowering. In a single instant, nearly every human that walked the earth was imbued with incredible arcane might. As humanity had not grown with this power, most lost control of their magic, and nearly as many perished in the aftermath of this chaos. The events of the empowering supposedly took place over a single day. The next day, all the arcane power and the divinity that flowed through humans' veins seemed to disappear, though a number of things were seemingly been changed forever. The first was that in the chaos, a great number of summonings had happened, pulling towns, cities, even entire countries to Earth from other worlds. While inter-realm travel had not been uncommon prior to the empowering, it had never happened at this scale before. Many of these nations were rattled and had lost much of their infrastructure during this event, leading to 500 years of peace among the disparate people who now called Earth their home cooperated in order to rebuild their civilizations. The second was that something supposedly dangerous had been created, seemingly in an effort to protect people from whatever this was. All inhabited lands had risen to the sky as floating islands which carried their climates with them, and what little remained of the ground was flooded with a torrent of ocean water, sealing whatever lay beneath in a great ocean. The third and final significant change was the raising of the firmament, an arcane barrier which sealed off Earth from all beyond it. Light still streamed down from what seemed to be the sun, and the moon was still visible in the sky beyond the barrier, but so warped and distorted that many non-humans did not believe the humans' claims that there was once an infinite space beyond the firmament, claiming that the sun and moon were simply apparitions on Earth's firmament. The firmament had a secondary effect. No god or mortal could deny, and that was that Earth was fully and truly sealed from the rest of the multiverse and planar system. Planar travel to other worlds was no longer possible, and even to the greatest of archmages, and the influence of the gods could no longer influence the people of the Earth directly, instead relying on empowered agents such as Aasimar, who often had their own interpretations of the gods' desires. There are quite a few other worlds that my DM created, but as part of the history of Earth now, there are multiple different worlds, multiple different planes that got pulled onto Earth, but I'll go over those as they become relevant to the story. So yeah, welcome to Earth. So just who is playing this game. There are 4 players, so me, Blake, which you might know is one of my editors, Rob, and Tebow. And then you're DM'd by our friend Jamie. This is my first time playing one of Jamie's games, but I played alongside of him and Blake and Rob before, so most of us like knew each other already, and like Timo knew Rob and Jamie already, so we're all like friends of friends. We all know each other. The thing is, one of the interesting things is except for Blake and I, every person in this group is in different time zones across the world, which isn't that strange for many of us, since most of us we have this like group of international friends that we've made online that we all play D&D with. It's like this like 20 of us, 30 of us, I guess, that like have like all these games that kind of overlap each other, and like but it does, it's not that strange to us, but it does introduce some strange meeting times and cultural barriers for us to work around. Yeah, that's always fun. Enough about us, though. Who are we playing? The fun part. So, as a preface, Blake and I decided to play a set of twins named Kai and Kia Pembroke. Rob is playing a lizard folk named Yawn, and Timo is playing a Gripply named Skyfrog. So other than Blake and I, we pretty much made all of our characters separately, so I don't know too much about them, other than like what I've learned in the past few sessions. And I'll do my best to describe them, but as the story progresses and as we get to those moments in the story, I will go in depth into their backstories and like events that happened with their stories. So yeah. So first up, let's talk about Yawn. Yawn is a massive, huge green lizard folk man who puts his size and muscles to good use. As a barbarian, Yawn is going toward a more like wrestling route, alongside of a penchant for a dragoon hook that he slings over his shoulder like a baseball baseball bat. Lizard folk are from the world of Kendra. Kendra is a world of wild flora and fauna covered in great jungles, magical beasts, and floating islands. It's kind of like the Feywild, kind of, but also more like the world of Avatar, like the Blue movie, not the Avatar: The Last Airbender. So kind of something like that is kind of how I imagine it, at least. But Yawn is the leader of a mercenary guild and has a small group of highly loyal members who help support their mission. So Yawn's really cool. I love Yawn. He's this very kind of gruff character who, so far in the sessions, he's definitely portrayed as like this like rule. He has like this set of rules that he has, and he kind of just like does his thing, and his thing is beating up people who are hurting us, his charges, and or hurting his overall goals. He's very good at what he does. Very intimidating too. Man is intimidating. But yeah. Next up is Skyfrog. Skyfrog is a frog. I mean, like, he's more than a frog. He's actually a Gripply. Gripplies are just frogs. I say just frogs. Gripplies are big frogs, human-sized frogs. And he's a wizard. You got the frog wizard. Not much is like known about Skyfrog. Skyfrog has amnesia. And so like all that he knows is that like one day he like fell out of the sky and a group of people found him and took him in, and then he started showing them like advanced magic, and began to make a name of himself as a super cool wizard. So hopefully we just started learning a little bit more about Skyfrog in the latest session, which is session 6 so far, but I'll let you guys know the deets once we get there. Sorry, somebody was walking right outside my apartment building, so I had to let him pass. So the last two members of the party are Kai and Kia. So Kai and Kia Pembroke are human twins. Kia has like long dyed copper hair with strange floating orbs of lights that like float around her, as evidence to both of her celestial heritage and her psychic abilities. Meanwhile, Kai has short, stark white hair with like no apparent magical abilities whatsoever, just his brain as a genius investigator. So Kia and Kai were born Kia and Kai the Albion. I can pronounce my own last name. Which are and they're some of the oldest of the many children of the Emperor of the Albion Empire. The Albion Empire is a strictly human empire who has gained huge amounts of political power by their intensely imperialist policies. Think like England in their colonial phase. The Albion Empire like shoots big hooks into other islands and then like drags them into their own to like invade. Yeah, they're pretty scary. They're also intensely humanist, like they're racist against non-humans. So, yay, we're from there. But neither Kia nor Kai had like any interest in the political machinations of their family and like sought to stay out of their spotlight. But after Kai saved his sister's Joan's invasion of a small country of Orkhold, he was named the designated heir of the empire and was targeted for attacks. So soon after an assassination attempt on themselves, I can read my notes, I promise. It was after an assassination attempt that was orchestrated by their older sister Joan. On both of the twins. Fuck, I'm struggling, guys. I'm really struggling here. Soon after an assassination attempt on both of the twins, orchestrated by their sister Joan, they faked their deaths and escaped to the nearby dwarven country, renaming themselves Pembroke after Kai's favorite fantasy detective. There, they made a name for themselves as a detective duo, utilizing Kai's superior intelligence and Kia's psychic powers to solve crime. But that is not where the Pembroke twins' story ends, nor is it even where it begins. You see, Kia and Kai are unique in that they are reborn souls that have been continuously reborn since their first death on the day of the empowering 823 years ago. Their souls are intertwined together, and when they both die, they are reborn anew. But how their souls intertwine has some, let's say, odd side effects upon the twins. Kai experiences almost no emotions, as Kia has all of his emotions on top of her emotions. Sorry, another person passing out by my apartment right now. How do I just go Okay, we're good. Okay. So, where was I? Emotions alongside her. Oh yeah, so Kia feeling these emotions, both sets of emotions, empowers her psychic powers, which have grown with each reincarnation. And instead of magic powers, Kai has access to almost all of their past lives' memories, which give him access to skills and knowledge that have been lost to the current world. So, to clarify, Blake plays Kia, an empathic psychic, and I play Kai, a cold investigator. I'll probably do like another video on diving like a little deeper into like Kai's backstory and motivations, and going into like Kai's build and stuff like that. But there's a lot to cover, and we won't even get to all of it today. So I'm going to leave that for another time as I head into at least part of the story so far. Alright, so the story so far. So we've done 6 sessions so far. So I'm only going to go over the first 2, mostly because I don't want this video to be too long, and to be honest, we've done a lot of story stuff in the past 6 sessions. Jamie's fucking efficient about getting things done, and also like we've been really excited to play and stuff, so we've kind of been moving the plot along pretty fast, but also like pretty low levels, so that's kind of what tends to happen anyway. But yeah, so session 1 we started at level 1. We are doing a 1 to 20 campaign, baby. Sadly, Timo wasn't there that session because Timo got food poisoning, I'm pretty sure. So Skyfrog wasn't in the session, so rip Skyfrog. Skyfrog gets one in the session and everybody else. Skyfrog came in session 2, don't worry. So essentially what happens in session 1 is Kia, Kai, and Jan all get called together by this guy named Mr. Solvit, who asks us to work on a serial killer case that has been plaguing this country for the past few weeks and months. You'll see a pattern in the NPC named Soon Enough. I love them. I also hate them. Jamie's some, that's for sure. So essentially, Kia and Kai were called in because Kia and Kai became a well-known detective duo, and Jan was called in as a kind of protective guard for them to make sure that like nothing went wrong and they were okay. So this serial killer case was pretty intense. There had been 18 fatalities so far, and they really needed to deal with this quickly and quietly. Mr. Solvit was like, you can't cause a panic. We don't want a panic to happen. By the way, Mr. Solvit is this like tiny goblin dude who like wears all like fancy clothes, and his picture is this tiny fancy goblin lad next to like a Doberman as his mount, which I just thought was really funny. So the latest victim we learned was this guy named was this deckhand named Strong Deckend. And he disappeared, I think something like 16 hours ago when we first started the session. And so the first thing that we did was we're like, okay, well, let's head down to the docks to investigate. So we head down to the docks, and there was this whole part where like Jan intimidated the wrong guy, and we had issues talking with the dockmaster to learn about Strong Deckend in the first place. It wasn't even like Rob's fault. It was just like Jan's dice rolls are like really bad, and they were terrible that session. And so like that first session, I don't think Jan rolled above like a 10 that entire session. It was so rough. But eventually we like get this information out of this dockmaster about like where he was working, and we head over to like the last ship this guy was unloading. And it's just like a really fancy, the ship itself looked not fancy, it looked like really rough. And this merfolk guy exits as we're like inspecting the crates around it, because there were some weird things about the crates. And he starts like, this like fancy dude exits this ship, this merfolk guy, and he introduces himself as Merchant. So Merchant, the merfolk man, introduces himself and asks us like what we're doing, and we explain to him that like we ask him questions about Strong Deckend, and we find that there was some like blood along the one box of like wine that he has, and so we start taking in clues and evidence, and we realize that like Strong Deckend must have been like taken here, and they like tried to clean it up, and they didn't like clean it up that well. And like before we leave this area, Merchant manages to flirt with not just Kai, not just Kia, but also Jan. He flirts with all of us, and then just says that he's he just wanted to create trade connections, and he definition of fish whore, I guess. But like also like fair, shoot your shot. He also went to these detailed stories about how he was trying to like seduce these other nobles. It was objectively funny because Merchant just has a very funny voice. But eventually, like, we leave and we start, like, we were a little lost about what to do next. But eventually we kind of make our way over to, like, the bars nearby. I get this idea of, like, well, maybe he, like, went to a bar, like, he frequented a bar, maybe they saw something. And so we head over to the bars and we go to the first one. And at this first one, like, we walk in and it's fucking silent. There's, like, all these people in this room and it's silent. And it was really awkward, and we walk up to the bartender and we start asking questions, and the bartender's like, no, the dockhands don't come here. He would have went to the other place across the street. That's where you're gonna get some information. Or like, thanks. And so then we go to leave. As we're leaving, Kai notices somebody stands up and follows us outside. Well then. But he doesn't see anybody, but he can hear it. So somebody's invisible following us. And so we head over to the other place, to the other bar. We head inside. Kia goes straight toward the bartender. Kai waits at the door with John. This man walks through the door that they don't recognize, but Kai's like pretty sure that this dude is the guy that was following them. And he politely threatens him to sit down and chat with them. And we sit down and chat with him, and after like 2 minutes, Kai realizes, oh, this guy is French. I mean, Albanian. That's right. We made the Albion Empire is based off of the British, but they're actually French. So, that's fun. Because that's like their royal language, their heritage language is that they're French. So the joke is that we're constantly fighting the French. So this dude is Albanian, and he tries to kill Kai and then fucking bolts. And so a fight ensues. It was this like crazy like chase fight, cause like, and Kia was like super far behind because she got stuck at like the back of the bar. And so like Kai and Jan were running after this dude, though Kai was like a little bit ahead because Kai's investigator abilities allow him to do things like without expending, like one of his abilities allows him to like predict his attacks without making an attack action. So he can like see if he's gonna attack before he actually, if he's gonna hit before he actually hits. So like that saved him some action economy stuff. And so we run. We get to this guy goes into the first bar we were in, and when Kai enters, there's a gunshot. The bartender is dead. Kai hears screaming from upstairs. He rushes upstairs. He enters. He breaks into this room. On the ground are 2 glowing ritual circles, a tied up dwarven man, and a guy that's like on fire. Hold on, there's people in my Okay, they've mostly passed. Okay, cool. So, so breaks into this room. There's 2 glowing ritual circles, a dwarven guy, and a guy that's like on fire, screaming about like, oh, this power, it's so great. And Kai takes out a gun, and I am not joking about this, one-shots this man. I took a single bullet, killed this man instantly, because guns are really cool in Pathfinder, guys. Like, they do extra, when you crit on them, they do extra, like, fatality damage, because they're, like, a fatal weapon. And so I did, like, level 1 character with a, like, you know, a normal weapon. I did 31 points of damage, I think, to this man in one shot that insta-killed him. which was a good thing because he was about to like blow everybody up in that room, including me. So, and I did not have many hit points. Whoopsie doopsie. So yeah, so we solved the case, yay! Mr. Solvit was kind of ambivalent, like not ambivalent, but he's like that wasn't really subtle, but like thanks for stopping them, I guess. And we all got 30 gold pieces, so that was pretty nice. Yeah. And then we got to session 2. Session 2, we were still level 1, mostly because Jamie wanted everybody to have the experience of being level 1, which was fine, mostly because session 2 was going to be mostly an influence session. Excuse me, let me get a sip of water first. Hold on. Yeah. Alright, so, session 2, we got Tebow bags, we got Skyfog, let's go! But session 2 is a little bit of a time skip. We skip about 2 weeks ahead of where we were at the end of session 1. And we finally get started on like the main campaign, which is like, this is what Jamie pitched to us was gonna happen when we started this campaign. And so we are, the 4 of us are invited to join an expedition to a place called Iron Beast Island, to clear it of these iron beasts that have taken residency there, and to establish a country on that island to buffer it and buffer the Elven Nation and Dwarven Nation from the Albion Empire. Essentially, so like the Dwarven Nation and the Elven Nation, which I forget the names of what they are right now, they want something. Oh, that shouldn't be up. So the Elven country and the Dwarven country essentially need a buffer because the Albion Empire has become more imperialistic and expansionist in recent years, and so they want to create a buffer. And so they like hired they essentially gathered like the best like 20 adventurers that they could find and said like, hey, go to this island, clear it out. If you can clear it out, you can establish a nation there. And we're gonna send this guy along with you, this guy named Caer Caller, or it's Caer Caller or Care Caller. It's like C-A-E-R, so Caer. We're gonna send this guy with you, and he's gonna judge to see which one of you guys are like the most fit to rule, and you guys will rule them. Whoopsie doopsie. Alright, so essentially we're in this, so like we get this invitations, and so we're invited to this like pre-celebration where we get to essentially meet a bunch of important people and utilize Pathfinder's influence rules. So Pathfinder has this like set of optional rules you can use when you're talking to when you're doing like political machinations and stuff like that, where you can track your like relationship with people via influence points. And influence points are points that you get for like having blackmail on a person, for being able to convince them that you're friends, and like and the more influence points you have, the more that NPC is either willing to listen to you or forced to listen to you, depending on what kind of influence you have over them. And then there's all these like other sub rules, which I won't go into now, but if we use the influence system later on, I'll like explain the influence system then. But we can just go over that. I'm just gonna go over the narrative stuff here. So Kai and Keita arrive first because they have anxiety about showing up late to things. That would be me, by the way. I have anxiety about showing up late to things. So we met Took, who is a squire of, and I'm quoting my notes when I say this, the beefiest, hottest priest of all time, Tudal. Who, we'll find out more about Tudal later, but I love my notes. And Took and Kia speak for a little bit. Like, Took is this elven woman who is very serious and well put together. She definitely, out of like amongst the adventurers and people who are there, looks to be the best, like well dressed and the most serious and like holding the most power. And we talk to her for a bit before Kia is bombarded by a bard named Melody Teller. It only gets worse from here, guys. Then they chat about Kia's powers and stuff like that. Then Jan enters the party with his +1 Lucely. Lucely is his right-hand woman. She works in his mercenary guild. And she does, I believe, a lot of the paperwork stuff. And or she's a mage. One of the two. I forget which one. Rob, correct me. Well, if Lucely comes back up again, I'll talk more about Lucely if she becomes important or not. And then we also get Skyfrog, who to all of us is just a gripply guy who walks in smoking this really big tobacco pipe. And we all learn about Care Color then, as Skyfrog goes up and talks to him for a little bit. And we learn that Care Color is the half-orc man who's in charge of, deciding who should lead the whole nation. And apparently he was a noble of Orcold and his whole family died, so now he fucking hates the Albion Empire. Not great for us, right? So then what happens is Toodall, that beefy hot priest man that I talked about earlier with the Squire Took, he sees Jan, big beefy Jan, walks up to him, challenges him to an arm wrestling match. Jan barely wins. This was Rob's first good roll, and he rolled so well. And he beat Toodall in an arm wrestling competition and got 4 influence points off of it because it was a DC I think it was 23 or 25 or something like that. It was hard. And so Jan gets to talk with Toodall more, and they get to chat and gains more influence after he talks about the Albion Empire with him. Meanwhile, Skyfrog meets a lizard folk man, a different lizard folk man, not Jan. He meets a different lizard folk man named Voltage, who he gains influence with after they discuss his smoking pipe, which is apparently a very old Kendra pipe, which is extremely rare. And then we, have dinner. And so Jan sits next to Toodall, and Toodall and his +1. Skyfrog sits next to his +1, which is a mage person. And Voltage. Kia sits next to Kai, and on her other side is this guy named Flock, who is this grizzly dwarf guy who's all about cooking, and he wants to settle down after a life of adventuring, so he wants to go to this place and really establish some roots and stuff like that. And on the other side of Kai, I did not plan this, by the way, a man sits down, a dwarven man sits next to him. And he realizes that this man is Prince Silverfinger. Prince Silverfinger is the uncle of the Duke of the Dwarven Country. So the Dwarven Country is a little weird, and that they don't have a king or a president. Their leader is a duke. And I forget the exact reason why. I'll probably get corrected by Jamie after this comes out. But essentially, the Duke is this younger guy, and Prince Silverfinger is his uncle. And Prince Silverfinger decides to sit next to Kai and activates this magic device so nobody can hear their conversation between the two of them. And essentially, Prince Silverfinger tells Kai that he believes that he's going to be the most likely to succeed and win over Care Collar. And he offers him a warning, essentially saying that one of the individuals involved in the serial killer situation from before is part of the adventuring party, but he doesn't know who. And Kai takes that information, thanks him for it, learns a little bit about him, using the influence rules, but like I said, I won't go into that. But essentially learns that Prince Silverfinger, his like weakness is that he would do anything for his people. He just wants the security of his people. And I was like, okay, fair enough. They agree to meet up once Kai is in power, so they can have a more open discussion, so to speak. So, after dinner, it transitions to dancing. So Kai ends up dancing with Prince Silverfinger, and he was trying to win more influence with him. Cause like I didn't know, like Kai's not really. Maybe he probably should have gone investigating for like the potential adventurers who weren't adventurers, but Kai also felt confident enough in him, his sister, and Jan at the very minimum to be able to handle a single person. And so so Kai decides, and I decide to try to win some more influence with Prince Silverfinger. And I was like, ooh, you know what I can do? Is I can offer to teach Prince Silverfinger French, because that's what the only like the royal people in the Albion Empire and the like secret people, the like spy people and stuff would use French as a method of communication. And so he speaks French to Prince Silverfinger and essentially says, hey, I can teach you French. And Prince Silverfinger is just like, essentially he's just like, bitch, I already know French, but I've rolled so high on my persuasion check, which is impressive because I have no bonuses to my persuasion check, to any of my charisma skills really, that he was like, but I'm not offended. Thank you for the offer. I was like, oh, thank Lord I didn't lose influence. That was a risky play. The other significant dance that happened was Skyfrog got, after failing miserably to dance with his +1, Skyfrog got approached by, you guessed it, Merchant, who was there. And they have a beautiful, like, almost professional looking dance. Merchant then offers to create a trade agreement surrounding, he's heard rumors that Iron Beast Island is covered in drugs, and like illicit drugs, and like, or plants that could become illicit drugs, and medicinal drugs and stuff, and he offers to create a trade agreement with Skyfrog if he would be willing to give Merchant some of the product. So we're wrapping up our time in this banquet hall, and all of us learned, but Kai and Kia especially, learned that Kair wasn't just a noble of Orcold, he was the prince of Orcold. And after Blake and I kind of like sat there for a minute and was like, you know, like freaking out, we decided the best method to deal with this is to tell him mostly the truth. And so we tell him that we were citizens of the Albion Empire, and that we renounced our citizenship because of the war crimes that they committed, and we're on a mission to stop the Albion Empire's influence. So it went mostly well. We rolled pretty terribly on our persuasion checks. Also, I think I was making them, which was the bad thing, because like I said, Kia's psychics are like charisma based, so like Kia should have probably been making it, but I was the one leading the discussion, so I was the one who made it, and I have a +0 in charisma. So it didn't go well. It didn't go poorly. Essentially, he's like, we don't gain or lose influence, but essentially he just like doesn't want to speak to us at all, and so we're like, fuck, that's not good. So we begin heading off to the ship. We leave most of the other NPCs behind. Only like Tudal came with us, among the nobles and stuff. He was like the only one that came with us. So we head to the ship and we meet some more NPCs. We meet Unit 14, which is a sentient, Unit 14, they are a sentient android who originally is from Iron Beast Island, and they escaped, and they want to, and after Kai talked with them for a little bit, we discovered that the Iron Beasts are actually just androids that have been corrupted by something. And Unit 14 believes that by fixing the maintenance station on the island, we can fix all of the automatons, all the androids, without having to, like, murder any of them. So, Unit 14 was really excited that Kai knew about engineering, which we'll get into why Kai knows about old world technology and old world engineering another time. Yeah, we learned about Unit 14. And then also, Kai is approached by this buff human guy who asks to talk to him privately when they get on the ship. And so Kai agrees to it. Because Kai, a lot of shady business happens around Kai. So Kai was like, yeah, this seems pretty on point for now. You can see where this is going. I bet you can. So we get on the boat, and so Kai tells his sister, like, hey, I'm going downstairs to meet this guy. I'm getting weird vibes, so just stay alert, stay on guard. And so Kai heads downstairs, and once they get down there, they head into this bedroom. The guy enters second, locks the door behind him. He pulls out a necklace, rips it off, crushes it, an illusion drops. He's just like big, buff, burly, human dude that Kai recognizes. And he starts saying that, like, I failed to kill you once, but your sister will pay nicely for your head now. As Kai realizes this is the same assassin that tried to kill his sister and him months ago. Meanwhile, in a bedroom over, Skyfog went to go take a nap. Another person enters the room, crushes a necklace, their illusion drops, and they put a knife to Skyfog's throat. Upstairs, Jan and Kia are on guard when Jan notices smoke coming from one of the rooms, like a fire was coming there. He rushes in, he realizes the fire is just an illusion, but there's a candle in there, and that candle is burning poisonous gas. Before he can leave, the door shut and locked behind him, and Kia, right next to Kia on deck, is somebody with another knife at her throat. And that is where we ended the session. That's also where I'm going to end the video, because otherwise this is going to go on too long. So what I'm going to do is leave the story up to this point. I'll then do another episode with the remaining 4 episodes. And then I'll do, I'll probably, we're at episode 6 right now, so this was 2. So I have 4 more to do, and then we have another session this Saturday, so I don't know if I'm going to get it in time for that, but know that we'll eventually catch up, definitely before session like 8 or 10. So, yeah. That's just like part 1. I have so many ideas for this series, so it's not just going to be me talking at you guys. I just need to get the story caught up so I can make my predictions and talk about my plans and stuff like that. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys didn't, I don't care. And comment down below whether you think we're going to die or get injuries. Alright. I would say next question, but there's no question, so I'll just see you next time. Peace.